I am so excited to do this video that I will be making today because I am going to be talking about the transit of Venus going retrograde all the way until September. And also because we have Saturn right opposite this Venus retrograde, also in retrograde all the way until November. I've already made a video on the result of Saturn retrograde, and I also have a PDF that you can find on somewhere on here on Patreon, I believe is pinned, that talks about all the important transits of 2023 for all the rising and moon signs. And in there, I included a section just for Venus retrograde. However, I think that this also deserves a video, and I'm going to go in depth as to what it might mean for all the rising and moon signs. But before we get there, we have to realize that we are currently in like I like to call it like a time tunnel, where we are repeating cycles from 2016 and 2017, also from 2007 and 2008. And this is because Saturn is at the place, it has reached the place where the North Node was transiting during those times. And in 2007, Saturn was transiting the opposite sign of where it's transiting now. So every 16 years, give or take, we go through a renewal period and a repetition period of a cycle that began 16 years prior. So during this retrograde, it is going to be even more imperative that you begin to think back at what was going on in your life 2016 and 2017, the major themes of that, because you're now getting an opportunity to redo this, because both planets that both planets are in retrograde. Saturn and Venus are both going to be opposite each other retrograde. Venus will be opposite Saturn until August, and then it moves back into Cancer. But prior to that, we're going to have this little window of opportunity where a lot of the things that happened to us back in 2016 and 2017 are going to be repeating themselves and are going to be coming back up again. So you're going to see little synchronicities like, oh, the person that I was dating back then has reached out to me. That is odd. Or you're going to notice things like, oh, I went traveling to this, last time I traveled to this country, the specific country was back in 2017. Or you're going to see things like, in 2017, I was in a major relationship and I was unhappy in that relationship. And now I'm finding myself single, happy, and looking for a relationship. So you're going to see those little synchronicities that deal with the major themes that were happening in your life back then. And therefore, you're going to get the opportunity to redo them in a different way. So if you had a really negative 2016, 2017, now you have an opportunity to heal that time frame and to reassess it and restructure it and redo it in the way that you wanted it to be back then. If you had a great time back then you can also have a great time now. And so things like that will be a major theme for all of us. And I'm going to tell you exactly how that's going to play out for all the signs in a minute. Implications of all the rising and moon signs. Let's talk about what Venus retrograde represents and some do's and some don'ts of Venus retrograde, what we should be focusing on and what we should completely avoid. So when a planet is retrograde, it means that you're revisiting something from the past that was incomplete, or an energy from the past that was unable to be fulfilled. And so you're bringing it into the present moment in order to redo it or heal it or let go. And so what ends up happening is that when we try to do something new during the retrograde period, we feel as if either there's a lot of obstacles in our way, or we might be able to achieve that. But what ends up happening is that once Venus goes direct, that energy completely dissipates. It completely goes away. And the things that you started at this time that were new completely go to waste pretty much. And so a planet is at its strongest, can be felt its strongest when it's retrograde, because it is closest to the earth. That's why when Saturn is retrograde, we feel it the most. Karmas come to us the fastest. So when Venus goes retrograde, we also feel it the most in the sense of love, relationships, money, friendships, because Venus is the natural ruler of the 7th house, Libra, which deals with partnerships, balance, relationships. And it also rules over Taurus, which deals with money, It deals with security. So all of those things are going to be the biggest themes for us right now. And so here's some things that we should do during the retrograde. We should strengthen our relationships with our loved ones, take it to the next level. We should focus on squashing any kind of difficult relationship that we've had with someone in the past, revisit old relationships that we felt had an unfinished, that we felt like we didn't get closure in. But you might also feel as if during the retrograde, like people are not really meeting you halfway, like there's no balance, like the relationships, there's a lot of imbalance when it comes to give and take, because part of retrograde, part of the lessons that we are learning during the retrograde deal with an imbalance of give and take. Venus retrograde, well, you can also realize that old flames or old lovers may come back into your life, or old friendships may come back into your life. And this is going to give you a chance and also the courage to either revisit the relationship and do it right this time, or it's going to give you the courage to finally put an end to it and let go. If it's a new relationship, it might not be something that is able to sustain itself after the retrograde. Venus retrograde will also make you, because Venus is felt the most, or any planet is felt the most when it's retrograde, is going to give you an inclination towards wanting to change your appearance. And you might like it while Venus is retrograde, but once Venus goes direct, you're going to feel like, what the heck did I just do? And you're not going to like it anymore. You might want to change your wardrobe. You might want to change your home, rearrange your furniture, move homes. But once Venus goes direct, if this is not something that you had already been planning to since before the retrograde, you might regret it. Also, when it comes to your finances, it's very important during the retrograde for us not to take any impulsive spending, because we might feel the need to take impulsive spending, but this retrograde is asking us to revisit and really become more aligned with our finances instead of jumping into spending and doing things that can have long-lasting effects negatively after the retrograde. So it's good to put your financial well-being in order, organize your wallet, organize your bank account, and all of those things are going to be really auspicious if you do them during the retrograde. Now, retrograde, because of the placements that it's in, you might feel inclined to want to get back to the person that you were in 2016, 2017, like as it pertains to your aesthetics, to your appearance, to the way that you carried yourself back then. So you might want to redo your wardrobe or your clothes to look like how they were back then. And that's okay. You can do that as long as you're doing something from the past and doing it over in a new way. That's fine, as long as you're not doing something brand new or taking on a new persona or taking on a brand new set of wardrobe, or a brand new set, or like completely changing your hair to something that you haven't had before, especially if you didn't have it during that period of 2016, 2017. Overall, Venus retrograde is an auspicious time to complete unfinished business. That is the main thing about Venus retrograde. Unfinished business in love, unfinished business in finances, in family, in relationships, in aesthetics. That is the whole point of Venus retrograde. That's the biggest takeaway I want you to understand today. Things that I found that you should and shouldn't do during Venus retrograde. One, you should return to former lovers. So former lovers, like I mentioned, will return into your life. This one is like a do and don't at the same time. So if they return and they're returning in order to help you get closure, then this is a great time for that. If they're returning and the relationship is returning in a way where it's fixing itself and past reasons or past difficulties are not arising when they return, and you're able to hash out whatever differences you had prior, then this is a go, because this is the time for you to get back with an old lover. If there's any time, it would be now during the retrograde. Otherwise, during other times, it usually doesn't work, but Venus retrograde is a great time for that. However, if you notice that the relationship is the same as it was before and nothing has really changed, then remember why you broke up in the first place, because that means that they're meant to come back into your life for you to get closure and close that chapter, not to remain there. Now, you might see new acquaintances, new friends pop up into your life. The thing is that if they're new friends, what ends up happening is that during the retrograde period, you might do well with them. It might be a great friendship or relationship, but once Venus goes direct, the relationship usually doesn't last. You might notice conflict with loved ones, but this is a great time to solve those conflicts with loved ones or with friendships or with coworkers. Is a time when those disagreements and resentments will come to the surface for you to let them go and for you to heal them. This is not a time to sweep things under the rug, because everything that's been being swept under the rug will come to the surface. You might get, like I mentioned earlier, this urge to have a new image, cut your hair, change your wardrobe, update your furniture. This is not the time for that. Unless this is something that you're going back to, you're trying to revisit how you did it back in 2016, 2017, or in the past, then yes, go for it. If you want to go back to that haircut that you had during that period, that's fine. But try not to make too many changes to your appearance that are irreversible, because especially if they're new, because this is a time when you might regret it after, especially when it comes to plastic surgery. If it was something that you were trying to do from the past, okay, maybe I would go for it. But if it's something new that you've never done before, I would say maybe try to reschedule your surgery for after the retrograde. Or if it's like a revision, like where you need to revise some kind of unsuccessful surgeries, like if it's a revision plastic surgery matter or a revision surgery, then yes, go for that. Anything that deals with revising, going back, redoing, this is the most beautiful time for that. There's no better time for that than now. Anything that's brand new, you're probably not going to get the results that you want ultimately. Okay, now the things that you should do is strengthen your relationships. Not worry if certain relationships or friendships give you irritation, or if certain relationships bring up stir up trauma within you. This is meant to happen during the retrograde, because they're meant to show you something and then let it go. Great time to go back to an old image of yours that you've had from the past. Like if you had blonde hair or black hair in 2017, going back to that, that's fine. Tidying up your wardrobe, getting rid of everything that's old, donating it. That's really auspicious, especially when it comes to jewelry, especially when it comes to clothes, furniture, and cleaning out your wallet. That's very auspicious. Making sure that you don't have any receipts or any like paper inside your wallet. Putting all your bills very neatly. Doing all of those things that deal with money and relationships, having flowers in your home at all times, that's going to bring you, be auspicious for you. Retrograde, along with Saturn retrograde, how it will show up for all the rising and moon signs. First half, it'll be in the sign of Leo until August, and then the second half, it goes back into the sign of Cancer until September. Venus retrograde and Saturn opposite retrograde for Aries and Libra, rising and moon. So I'm combining both signs because both houses are being activated during this retrograde period. So what's going to happen is that the Aries and Libra rising and moons are going to have this conflicting energy between love, romance, creating something, along with institutions and the better good of all. So you're going to have questions come up for you from the past that deal with your friendships, that are going to force you to revisit and revise your manifestations. Think about what was going on in your life in 2016, and what were you trying to manifest back then? What were you trying to achieve back then, especially as it pertained to school, your friendships, learning, relationships? A lot of you are going to be hearing from exes. A lot of you are going to be hearing from past friendships, but there's going to be a clash of frustration that's going to happen the first half of the retrograde until August. Then it goes into your fourth house of home, the Venus retrograde, 4th and 10th house. So the first half, you're going to be struggling between having fun, creating something. Maybe some of you were trying to conceive a child and were unable to. Maybe this is the time when it actually happens, or maybe some of you get pregnant or decide altogether like you really don't want children, or maybe you decide to work with children in some way the first half, or create something, or pick back a hobby that you were doing in the past. Be careful with like social media and like technology, because for you this retrograde period is going to give you it can bring up scandals around love and relationships as it pertains to technology. So maybe you're like sharing things over technology and you become entangled in a relationship with someone from your past through technology, which it doesn't which can affect your life in general with your current partner, or it can also show up in the form of meeting someone from your past through technology, or picking back up something that you had started in the past that dealt with friendships, technology, as well as your relationships and your love, as well as learning. Some of you might be learning something from the past, or just finally seeing the manifestation that you have been waiting for a really long time. Now, the second half, it'll be happening in your 4th and 10th house. So at this time, you're going to be revisiting like your happiness and how you comfort yourself in the comfort of your home environment and your career. Your career may be demanding a lot from you during the second half of the retrograde, and you might have to revisit some areas that deal with how you feel comfortable at home and how you feel and how you perform at work. So maybe your work life is bringing you some tension at home, or something from your work life is coming up right now in order for you to revisit it, and in order for you to do it better this time. So maybe think back at what you were working on back in 2017, 2016, this might be a theme right now. Some of you, if you were trying to move during the retrograde, you might decide that you want to move, but love and relationships, as well as comfort and family, are going to be a big theme for you guys. So that's why I think some of you might be revisiting your relationships with loved ones, maybe going through a breakup or starting a new relationship and an old relationship, or getting closure in relationships, or getting closure in friendships and acquaintances. Also your mother, there could be something from that comes back up that you thought you had healed in terms of your relationship with your mother, or women in general. You thought that was over with, and then the situation comes back up and you have to reassess it, and it kind of like escalates a little bit. This is because things are being stirred up as it pertains to your relationships with others. So it's very important for you to acknowledge it at this time. Don't sweep it under the rug, take care of it, and then let it go. Or this can also pertain to your career. So maybe things from your career that you thought you had put, that you thought you were done with, they come up again in order for you to revise it and revisit it. This could be some kind of, maybe you're waiting for a promotion, it could come to you at this time. But if you ask for a new promotion, or if you try to get into a new career, this might not be the best time for that, because or to like quit your current job, this might not be the best time for that. Even if you feel like you really want to, just hold off, revisit it, and wait until after the retrograde. And also same applies for wanting to start a new career. If now you're going back to old careers, old coworkers, an old way of working and doing it right this time, then this could be very, very profitable for you, especially in terms of maybe expanding your career life if you're revisiting something from the past, and also moving or expanding something in your home if you were trying to remodel or revisit that area in the past. Now we're off to the next sign, which is Taurus and Scorpio. So for Taurus and Scorpio rising and moon, so this Venus retrograde is bringing a lot of tension and like a push and pull feeling between your career life and your home life. So for some of you can be feeling like your status and your career are really bringing up a lot of anxiety and a lot of heaviness for you. And at the same time, your home life is something that is asking you to pay attention to. And so Venus retrograde can make you feel like you need to change something about how you're about your status, about your career, about your legacy. Like you need to redo or think back on what you were doing back in 2016, 2017, and revisit those cycles, because your home life is also being restructured or revisited in some way. It's just like this tension that you have in between your happiness, like what makes you happy, having a home base, having a routine, having your emotions, feeling like your emotional needs are being met. That's going to be a big thing for you this retrograde. Are your emotions being met? Your needs, your emotional needs being met by your relationships, by your work environment, by your sense of stability, by your sense of career. And so if it's not, then this retrograde Venus is going to bring up all those issues and expand them. Some of you might want to redecorate your homes, remodel, or redo a style that you had from the past. Or some of you might even want to do something new into your homes, but I would suggest against moving, and unless it was something that you were planning from before. I would also, like if some of you were trying to like become parents, become a mother for women, or change like your status in the world because you became a parent, or because you moved homes, or because you changed careers, then this is a good time for that. But remember, the retrograde is all about reassessing, revisiting, and redoing. So you need to reassess what makes you feel at home, what makes you feel happy, what brings you joy and happiness, what brings you emotional satisfaction, and how you treat your career and the responsibilities that you put upon yourself within your career, and how that impacts your indulgence within your happiness. So for some of you, your career life is going to feel very heavy, and for some of you, you're going to feel very heavy at home. So if your home life feels heavy, then there's an imbalance that you need to revisit. If your career feels heavy and like there's a lot of anxiety and pressure, then there's something in an imbalance in your career that you're having to revisit. Don't overindulge at this time with things that deal with the arts or beauty or comforts, and don't overwork yourself as well. Because if you in the past, if you were overworking yourself, then you're not going to feel happy during the retrograde. You're going to feel a sense of detachment, a sense of depression, a sense of melancholy. If you were underworking, then you're going to feel a sense of responsibility and duty and a lot of anxiety that are going to force you to have to work harder. Otherwise, you're going to notice that things in your life are not, like your financial stability is not going to go the way that you planned, or your reputation is not going the way that you planned. However, if you're revisiting and redoing and tweaking how you worked in the past and how you felt at home in the past, and bringing that forward in a new way, then this is a great period for you. The first half of the retrograde, and then the second half of the retrograde after August, Venus goes into Cancer in your 3rd and 9th house. It will no longer be aspected by Saturn, so you'll no longer feel a sense of anxiety when it comes to doing the things that you love. You'll no longer feel a sense of anxiety when it comes to working, or when it comes to being at home. But at the same time, you will have Mars and Mercury in your 4th opposite 10th. So there's still going to be a lot of work to do in terms of your home environment and how you want to be perceived in your career and the legacy you want to be behind. But in the second half of the retrograde, the focus is mainly going to be on voicing your beliefs, revisiting your beliefs around your sense of home, around your happiness, around your friendships, how you communicate with others. You're also going to be revisiting maybe the relationship you have with your parents, and also revisiting maybe traveling back to a place where you traveled in the past, or going back to school, or picking back up something that you had learned back in 2017, 2016, and you're picking it back up. or things from, oh, also, I would say maybe if you were having issues with your car, that might come back up again. If you were having issues at work in your career, that might come back up again. Just have patience and learn the lessons, because the ones that Venus is about to go direct, you're going to receive a lot of the good karmas from the retrograde. So there could be some sudden unexpected expenses to your home or to your car, or don't buy a new car unless you really needed to from the past. Don't buy a new car, and don't but if your car breaks down and it was something that you really needed to do from a long time, then just do it. Don't leave your job. You might get the feeling like, oh, F this, these people are pressuring me too much, let me leave my work. Don't do that at this time. Wait it out, resolve it, revisit what you've done. And then once Venus goes direct, then it's a good time to make that decision. But right when it's about to go direct, which would be on September 3rd, around there. Scorpio and Taurus, this Venus retrograde is directly impacting your sense of identity and your relationships with the outside world and with yourself. So if there was some kind of like scandal or past relationship that was unresolved, this might come back up again in order for you to resolve it and let it go. Or to revisit it and to continue it. Maybe some of you wanted to, an ex comes back into your life and you're able to really resolve what was keeping you apart from the past, and you resolve that and you get back together, that's fine. But if you meet someone new, just don't go for it, because your first and seventh house are getting activated. If you wanted to do something new to your appearance, I would hold back on that, because you might feel like doing something new to your appearance. But at the same time, you might, if you wanted to like revisit like looks from the past, like how you looked in the past, you might feel inclined to do that. You might feel inclined to feel more at home, or to like fix, or to do something with your home. Expenses in your home can also go up. And like I said, your belief systems about yourself, how you view yourself and how you view your relationships, that can be an underlying energy that's there present during the retrograde period. Overall, I would say be very cautious with your finances and how you handle business, and be very cautious with your image to the public. Also with your relationships, if relationships issues from the past arise, just address them and let them go. Or maybe this might be a time when you finally make a decision that you needed to make from a really long time, and you get the courage to finally do it. Now we're off to the next sign, which is Gemini and Sagittarius. Sagittarius, the first half of the retrograde is happening until August, is happening in between your 3rd and 9th house. And then the second half, it'll be in your 2nd and 8th house. So this retrograde period is going to be all about transformations and all about changing your beliefs around your parents, your siblings, travel. Maybe you're picking, remember the retrogrades are all about reassessing, revisiting, and redoing something from the past. So some of you might pick back up on studies that you kind of like were doing back in 2016-17, or picking back up a business venture that you took on back then, or you might be revisiting your beliefs from back then, or your friendships from back then, or even like your neighbors might cause some kind of discord in your life, like your neighbors or your friends or your immediate circle. Then after August, the retrograde will happen in your 2nd and 8th house, where you're going to go through some kind of transformation to your financial stability and to your resources. So this could be a time when you're revisiting your resources, how you spend your money, where you're spending your money, your family, how much your family is needing resources from you, how much you're giving to them, how secure you feel in your resources. So this is a time to really revise, reassess your resources, your money, your sense of stability. This is not a good time to buy new expensive stuff, even though you're going to feel like it, especially in the second half, buying expensive stuff. Or this is not a time to sort of invest in things that you don't know a lot about. If you're investing in something from the past, that's fine, but don't invest in something new that you're not very aware of. Your house of luck is being impacted during this retrograde. This could be a time when you receive some kind of luck that you were waiting on, or embark in a spiritual endeavor that's going to take time, but ultimately is going to give you the courage that you need to take on, to make the necessary changes in the area of life that you've been most worried about, especially as it pertains to your family, your finances. So this luck, or this luck factor, is going to really improve your status, and you're going to have some courage to revisit from the past, an energy from the past that dealt with your courage, that dealt with your belief systems, that dealt with education. So you're getting, luck is on your side. It's just like, it might not feel like it at first, and then later on towards the after August, you might get that luck factor, and something just suddenly happens. Like maybe you go on a sudden trip and something really lucky happens to you that you were hoping for since 2016, 2017. I would say also be careful with like when it comes to your parents. Like this is a time when they might be asking more of you or needing more of your energy. Same with your siblings, they might be needing more of your energy, but you really have a lot of stamina and a lot of courage to be able to reassess and have those necessary communications and those necessary words in order for you to voice your beliefs and voice your needs. So if you're in school, this could be a time when you're going back to old academic classes, or taking up old skills. Or if you started a business, this might be a time when you're reassessing your business and you get really good luck out of it. And then in the second half, you're going to be reassessing your financial gains and your assets due to this business or this belief or this communication, where you're just going to be revisiting and reassessing how you feel security and your sense of security, your sense of stability. A lot of like spiritual awakening situations can happen that were from the past. Your family might also bring up a lot of situations from the past in order for you to heal them, or things that you were sweeping under the rug from the past might come up now when it comes to your family, or when it comes to your finances and your security, so that you can heal it. If you feel like doing something to your face that's new, don't do it. If you're going back to revise something that you did, like a cosmetic procedure that you did to your face, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Now we're off to the next sign, which is Leo. Aquarius, rising, and moons. Their rising and Capricorn rising and moons. This is all about you now. Okay, so this retrograde is going to begin in your 2nd and 8th house. So the first half of the retrograde until August is going to be all about reestablishing your sense of security and your resources. There's going to be a push and pull, or like some kind of tension when it comes to how you share your resources and how you feel secure within yourself due to your resources, your financial stability, and also due to your spouse. If you're waiting for a settlement during this first half of the retrograde, you might receive that settlement, or you might just find out things that come to the surface that you didn't know before. If you're reassessing and redoing a relationship from the past, think back of what was going on in your life in 2016, 2017, because those are the themes that are going to be reassessed right now. Like for instance, how were you finding and feeling security back then? Did you feel secure within yourself? Did you feel stable within yourself, within your family life? Were you feeling a lack of resources or a lack of stability back then? Because if you were, then now it's an opportunity to redo that in a different way. So to find stability now, to really get your finances in order, really get your family, really learn how to balance your family, finances and your own well-being, this is a good time to redo all of that. Or if you were having a really good time during those years, then maybe this could just mean you reassessing that and having a repeat of that. So maybe if you felt like doing something cosmetically to your face that's new, I would avoid that. Especially surgeries, new surgeries, I would avoid that because you're going to feel like doing something different to your face. Just don't do that. If you're reassessing something that went wrong in the past that you did in the past, then okay, that's fine. Do that, but not anything new. If you were investing and you're kind of like wanting to receive the settlement from those investments, that's fine. You can go ahead with that. But if you're trying to invest, or if you're trying to invest in something new that you don't know much about, don't do that. Like, hold off until the retrograde is over. Your family can have a lot of tension in the first half of the retrograde, or you can feel very insecure about yourself, about your finances, about your sense of resources. There's going to be some transformation that happens to you in the first half that can feel very tense at first. It can feel like you're really not, like, you know, you need to do this thing and it's going to bring you stability ultimately, but you really don't have the courage right now to do it. That's how you're going to be feeling. But once you do it, you know, you're going to come out of it transformed. So that's kind of like what you're struggling with right now. Some of you might go back to an old job or start a new job that deals with something that you were doing in the past. Some of you, so once you do during the retrograde, the things that you're holding back on, the things that you're not moving forward on will become so evident that you will have to move forward with, and you'll have to finally have the courage to take the action. Now, once Venus goes into your first house retrograde, which will be in August, this is when you're going to have the courage and the ability to take those actions of the transformation that I talked about earlier. So this can be due to your relationships or due to your own sense of self. So some of you are going to revisit how you view yourself. You want to go back to a style that you had back in 2017, 2016, go back to a relationship, revisit a relationship. Old lovers might come back into your life during the second half. Or you might want to change something about your relationships, or restructure something about your relationships, and that's okay. You can do that at this time. Just don't get into anything new. If you feel like your relationships are really a point of tension right now, just understand that this is because something needs to be revisited, something needs to change. And if it doesn't change, then you will have the auspiciousness to take the necessary steps to change it. Remember, this Venus retrograde will always be felt, but Venus retrograde is all about revising, revisiting, and redoing and reassessing. It's not about starting something brand new, getting into a new relationship. It's about healing old relationships, getting closure with yourself and your relationships, or having or going back to an old relationship and reassessing your role within that relationship. Those are going to be the themes for you. If you want to change something about your appearance, your body, this is not the time to do something new. Maybe reassess how you were doing it before and do it better this time. Now we're off to the next sign, which is Leo and Aquarius. This Retrograde period, the first half is going to be about your own sense of self and your relationships. You're gonna feel like a sense of pressure, a sense of anxiety between your partnerships and between yourself. Like, where do I give my energy to? How do I balance it? How do I become more aligned with my relationships versus who I am and what I want for myself? Or even business partnerships, they're going to be asking more of you, or your actual relationship, like marriage relationship. This might be a time when you're revisiting how you show up in your partnerships, how you show up to the outside world, but at the same time there's some tension there they need to resolve. Old lovers might come back into your life, and this could be for the better. This could be to rehash, revisit, redo, reassess the relationship. And if things are going well, then this could be a relationship that can move forward. If not, then you might just receive the closure that you needed. This can also apply to friendships. This can also apply to your own sense of self, or business partnerships, or relationships with the outside world in general. you are really feeling like you want to focus on yourself, but at the same time, the other side to it is that your partners are also asking you to focus on them. So it's like you don't feel like, you feel like a push and pull between the two. You feel like you can never win, like you can never be satisfied in both sides, and therefore it can cost you a lot of anxiety. This is because you need to reassess the way that you view these things, the way that you act upon these things. People might be a little bit more aggressive towards you than usual, and you might want to express your creative side more than usual, especially with your friendships or within your own sense of self. However, think about what was going on in your life back in 2017, 2016, because you're sort of revising and revisiting that. So maybe if back then you were really working on yourself, on your fitness, then this is something that you can redo now. But if back then you were not working on your fitness at all, and you might revise that and work on it now. Or this could be a time when you are less focused on yourself and more focused on your partnerships. If new marriages, new relationships, I highly suggest against them at this time, unless your personal chart is conducive of that. Like there's certain placements that you would need to have, but that needs to be a personalized reading. But otherwise, I would say anything new is not going to last past the retrograde. So if you do something new to your appearance, your home, your love life, that's not going to last. That's probably going to be done once the retrograde is over. But if you revise something that you have already done in the past and make it better, then this is a good time for that. So if you were having surgeries and it's revision surgery, that's fine. If you're going to go for a brand new surgery, doing something brand new, don't do it. Let's see what else. New relationships, it's probably not going to last unless it was something from the past. Venus retrograde goes into your 12th and 6th house. This is going to really illuminate your subconscious fears around partnerships, relationships, and around your work environment. Like how are you sort of being efficient in your everyday life? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you working with your coworkers? There could be some kind of litigation that gets solved, or litigation from the past that comes up at this time, or hidden enemies that come to the surface, but from the past, but you'll be able to solve this, or situations from the past that kind of like resurface to now be dealt with. There could be also you wanting to focus more on picking up an old hobby, picking up an old diet, or picking up an old routine that you've had for the past, that you had in previous years, and you want to pick it back up now. It's a good time for that because you're revisiting that and you're going to do it better this time, or you're just going to have the courage to be able to accomplish this new healthy way of life, or this new work environment, or this new job, or going back to an old job. Just don't leave your current position and don't daydream too much, because you might have the tendency to do that. Just make sure that you're being very routine and you're revisiting and revising things that deal with your work environment and things that deal with your own sense of self. Don't overwork yourself, and don't be too or don't underwork yourself, if you know what I mean. Like don't be too lazy and don't overwork, because there's going to be tension and that you need to balance. So old subconscious fears might come to the surface. So I would say this is a good time to let go, close chapters, release things that were bothering you in the past, release ways of being, release old belief systems and thinking patterns that are not serving you. Release them. This is going to be a perfect time for that. Also, maybe expenses are going to go up for you. Like there could be some kind of sudden expense or something, or it's just high expenses that are going to come up now that from the past, possibly. So try not to take on any new expenses. Don't take on don't add to your expenses now, anything new. Just learn how to manage what you have currently and revise expenses from your past, and everything will be just fine. Lastly, Virgo and Pisces. So the first half of the retrograde is happening over your 12th and 6th house. So the first half, you're going to be revisiting up until August, things that deal with your inner sense of self and with your belief systems. Maybe some of you may be traveling in order to feel a little bit more stable within, or maybe some of you can be traveling to places that you traveled to back in 2016, 2017, or you can just be feeling a lot more like you need to heal your inner wounds and things with work, like some kind of pressure at work and some kind of pressure within your mental health. So there's like your mental health and your work environment are needing a revisiting of some sort. Like you're wanting to do your work, but there's something around like your coworkers being more difficult than before, or or wanting to just like give it all up because you're sick and tired of it, or you're just wanting to or something around your coworkers, they're being difficult and it's coming back up now. Something that you thought you had healed or rested or put under the rug is coming back up now in order for you to revisit it. And also it could be the case that you are letting go of old unhealthy patterns of and old unhealthy behaviors and routines. So this could be a good time to revisit your routines and make them better, tweak them. So think about how your life was in 2016, 2017, how you were treating yourself and how you were treating your work environment back then, because now you can do it differently. So if back then you were having difficulty at work or difficulty with your health and with your routine, now it's a time when you might when you're going to remember that and therefore change it and be a lot more healthier, work on your fitness, work on your routines, work on your sleep schedule, or even just let go of old patterns that are no longer serving you, old belief systems. Maybe lovers from the past can come back into your life, or you might pick up on an old skill or on an old creative endeavor that you kind of put away and you haven't revisited for many years or for a really long time. This could also be a time when work or your daily routine is getting in the way of your mental happiness, or your mental happiness can be getting in the way of your everyday work routine. So I would say if you're traveling at this time, make sure you have all of your papers, make sure you have everything in order. If you're not traveling and you're working, make sure that you revise all your work, revise your finances, and the people that you love or the people that you work with, your coworkers, make sure you're trying to keep an amicable relationship with them, because a lot of people can cause you a lot of mental stress, like headaches, or a lot of people can make you feel like you're incapable or like you're not good enough. So this is a time to let go of all those limiting beliefs. This is a really good opportunity for that when Venus is in the 12th house or in the 6th house. So ultimately you will overcome all your enemies, but people from your past that were like foes, like friends, foes, or like there were enemies, or if you old co-workers or old lovers might come back into your life to give you closure at this time. Now in the second half, your Venus goes retrograde in your 11th and 5th. So this is the time when there's going to be some kind of wish fulfillment that can happen to you from the past. So if you were for a really long time wishing to blow up on social media, this is a time when that can happen. Or if you were really working hard to get a promotion in an institution, this is a time when you'll finally get it. Anything that you're revising, anything that dealt with the past, especially the last 3 years or 2016, 2017, that's going to resurface, and you're going to receive those manifestations, receive those gains, but they're not going to come so fast. There needs to be after a period of revisiting, after a period of revising. So you're finally going to hear back from that old lover, or hear back from a position that you really wanted, or get some kind of manifestation, or meet some very powerful people due to your hard work. This could also be a time when some of you, if you were planning to conceive a child, or if you had a child, you might conceive again, or you might give birth, or conceive a child at this time. If that was a wish that you had that was not fulfilled from the past, then you might revisit that. If you're trying anything new, like getting a new job or going into a new relationship, that might not work for the best for you. So I would say hold off on that. But if it's people from your past that you're revisiting, yes, because you have an opportunity coming in after self-reflection, after going away and really focusing on your mental health. In August, you'll have some kind of wish fulfillment that will come to you that deals with your friendships, your creative endeavors, your love. Make sure you're not spending recklessly, because this could also be a time when you feel like spending on going out, or you feel like going out more and indulging in that and spending your money on your friends or on going out or on technology. If you were like having to, if the wish fulfillment dealt with something that had to do with technology, social media, profits, gains, your brothers, sisters, then this can be a time when that's going to be revisited. Old relationships can also be revisited, like I mentioned. Like old streams of income that you kind of forgot about. This could be a time when you resurface that. And if you had old creative endeavors, or you started a business and that didn't do well, you might pick it back up, or you might decide to go back to some kind of hobby that you did in the past. And old friends that are going to bring you some kind of wish fulfillment are going to come into your life as well. So there's a lot happening. Your friendships are going to be revised, your relationships, your love life is going to be revised, as well as your own inner sense of stability, happiness, and work environment. Those are the major themes for you. So think about those areas of life and how they were planning out for you back in 2016, 2017, because there's going to be a repeat of that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this reading and I hope it was helpful. Bye.